Hello and welcome to this new Textile podcast episode. This is Nani and I'm Clara, and today we're going to talk about lace, in particular tatting lace. We also have a guest on this podcast, so stay tuned for that. But first of all, Nani, what is tatting?
Shuttle tatting is basically a technique where you knot knots together and in the end you have a beautiful lace. No, it's basically you have a shuttle like this, or any other form. You can have also metal ones. I love particularly this one.
Mhm.
This is said to be a Victorian replica. I really love how it feels because it's really handy to work with.
Mhm.
They are really big ones. But later on that. Tatted lace will in the end look something like this. You have basically a lot of loops knotting together, and that's also the base for the name we have in Germany. In German, tatting is Occhi.
You mean Italian?
In German also, because we took it from the Italian word, and the Italian word means eye. So
I want to say one thing. I was told by a friend of mine who's very good in speaking Italian that it's called occhi, not occhi.
Okay.
And every time I'm saying it wrong because I learned it wrong, she says, no, it's occhi. So
Okay.
we'll have to try to remember that. Otherwise, she will tell us.
Okay, so it's occhi. And yeah, that's where the German and the Italian name came from or come from. And I love the French name. The French name is Frivolité, and it comes from being together, chatting, having fun, and basically working on this lace, because this was a lace back in the days that was done by everyone, by every
noble woman, also by noble.
Yeah, by noble women, but also by the normal working class.
Mhm.
And it was a work you did together. It's apparently not customary, or was not customary, to do this lace alone. It was social.
So a bit like knitting in other cultures.
Yeah, basically. And in the beginning, you didn't make this fine lace. This is a really rough one. But in the beginning, it was used for making gardinen.
Curtains, of course.
Yeah. In the beginning, it was used to make curtains or really rough bed sheets, or rather decorative bed sheets. And you used shuttles, which were like so big. And nowadays, they are so small. But that's where the shuttle tatting came from, and it became smaller and smaller, and also lace that working class women could easily make and use for their undergarments, basically. Nowadays, tatting is spread everywhere. It was also back in the days. It was a technique almost every culture used somehow. Some, like we do with the shuttle tatting. There are needle tatting techniques. But basically, it's you're knotting a thread around another thread and building these loops or chains. That's the main technique. So yeah, that's tatting.
I also read in a book from 1919, which is a German book, that the origins of tatting tatting comes from Germany originally.
Oh, really?
I mean, as it's a German book, I wouldn't trust it 100%. I mean, everyone likes to say that certain techniques come from their country, so I'm not really sure if it's true. But the person said that it's a German technique in its origins, and that it then came to France. So first it was I think there was a book in 1715, a German book, where it was mentioned first. And then in the later 18th century, it came to France and really gained popularity there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't actually know where it really comes from, but we know of indigenous people who also use the technique all over the world. So yeah, it's also a really basic technique. Making knots is not that intricate if you once know how and where. This way you can build really cool patterns, I find.
I think the most difficult thing is to really hold the tension, because what I did wrong first is I had a wrong tension because it was on the other thread.
Yeah,
it's a bit difficult to explain, but you have knots that you build around one thread, and the knots have to slide over the other thread. And if it doesn't, then you can't close the loops, and therefore the lace is wrong.
Yeah,
and this I found most difficult in the beginning.
Yeah, and for me it was also to hold the base thread who builds the loop in the loop. Because in the beginning I couldn't figure out how to make this loop. I think that's because of the book I used to teach it myself, and this book was horrible. I won't recommend. I didn't get a word. It was basically, I watched YouTube videos and this made it clear and I understood how to do it. And this book, even looking back at it now, I don't understand what they're telling there.
What YouTube videos did you use?
I used the videos by Bryce Adam.
Me too. Bryce Adams, yeah.
Bryce Adam.
Me too.
Yeah. Her videos are really slow enough to work with her, but not too slow that you get bored.
Yeah.
So it's the perfect way to learn it, I think.
I also read another fun fact that in the Victorian era it became even more popular, and there were magazines. So when fashion magazines became even more popular in the Victorian era, they also talked a lot about needlecrafts like tatting, and there were a lot of pictures of tatted lace combined with crocheted lace. Ooh. Which I really liked. So for example, you had one strip of tatted lace and then you attached a band of crocheted lace, so it would be easier to sew it on a garment. So this I found really cool. And also there were like squares made of rosettes, I think that's the word, of tatted lace, and then there were like leaves, crocheted leaves in it, which I found also really beautiful.
This here is an example. This is
an apron?
Apron,
yeah.
Which is, as you said, made of tatted lace combined with crochet to be able to sew it onto the apron itself. This is a project I want to do one day, but right now, here you can see it. It's this outer row is the crocheted one, and inside it's the tatted one. And this is one of the books. It's not Victorian era.
From the 1920s, I think.
1920s, but basically 1910.
Okay.
Yeah, it would not have changed that much over the time.
No.
You can't feel it, but the texture of this book is so beautiful. It almost feels like the lace is laid on it. And yeah, here are some really cool projects to maybe one day make. Others where you think, okay, why would you do something like that?
Sometimes there's a thin line of being very beautiful and then not that beautiful.
Yeah. Also, one day maybe making a jabot. I really love tatted jabot, but it's completely over the top.
I like these small strips here.
Yeah. They are made way easier than this one. This will take way more time. But, well, I guess we never shy back from time-consuming projects.
Here you see this kind of lace where you had to a band of crocheted lace.
Yeah, for your baby. Any baby.
Any baby.
Yeah, so it's really cool to see the old techniques, the old books. Because me personally, when I see Ochi or Oki or Tatting, if it has multiple colors, I find it to be really, really cliche. Like, it has no use. It screams to me it has no use, because usually colored tatting, I completely link it to useless decorative objects, which is completely stupid, but that's how my brain works.
If it's one color, then if it's fitting to a garment, for example,
Yeah.
like a dark red garment with red
Yeah,
lace,
that
would be fine.
would be fine, but maybe red and green and yellow,
Mm.
and I wouldn't like it anymore. But
Everyone
yeah,
has taste.
yeah,
But I know what you mean. I mean, I have seen some very beautiful. There's one person who does jewelry made, so earrings, for example, made of tatted lace, and it's made of a dark red with a beige brown color, and I think that those fit really well together. Sometimes it does look really good to combine beautiful colors, but I know what you mean. Sometimes it's too bold and too contrasty, and then also it's important to know which part of the design you make in one color and where you change the color, because then certain parts will stand out, of course.
yeah, that's true.
And maybe it doesn't look that good when certain parts stand out.
And also, it's a different thing if you, for example, have jewelry. I think those colors in one or two colors are really, really beautiful. But these placed like doilies, that's more what I'm thinking about. These colorful doilies. Yeah, but the finer also the yarn is, the more beautiful I think it is.
So you say that you find very fine tattered lace really beautiful. What I also like is really over the top, huge pieces of lace. So I saw a person who makes, she made tiles from, I think it was clay.
Yeah.
And then she made like really huge pieces of tattered lace. So one chain was like this big. And then she placed this onto this piece of clay to make a tile. And then the relief or the structure of the tattered lace was placed onto this tile. And I find that these over-the-top things can look really cool too.
Didn't you send me also the furniture? The hanging...
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know the English word. Hängematte, sowas?
Yeah. Hanging seat?
Hanging seat? Hammock.
The hammock. Basically, but seated hammock was it, right?
Yeah, it was...
a round hammock, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool too, because you have this structure, but it's really huge and also really aesthetic, I think. Maybe one day.
But I don't know if it's really stable when you sit on it, because this lace isn't gaps.
Yes.
And also there may be knots around one piece of thread, but in the end this piece of thread in the middle is holding everything together. So if your weight is dependent on this one thread, I don't think it's very stable in the end.
Maybe you should use a wired thread for the base thread. We are thinking about huge furniture here.
We're talking about historical projects. Fine and delicate lace.
Basically, that's the introduction, a quite long introduction into tatting. Do you have any work in progress?
Actually, yes. So I knew that we wanted to make this episode, and you are the person who does tatting for a few years now, I think. And I hadn't done it before, so I just wanted to try it out for this episode. So one thing that everyone will probably start with is this. I'm not sure if you're seeing it.
Tiny loop.
A tiny chain with knotted threads around it. I had, as I said, a bit of tension issues in the first time, because I was wrapping my thread around the wrong piece of thread. Shouldn't make sense. So it works for one chain, but it doesn't work for many others. So you can close one, but when you start the other one, you can't close it because you have knotted your
knots around the wrong thread, basically.
It's a bit complicated to explain if you don't know how tatting works. I hope it's fine. So when I discovered that this was wrong, I changed my technique, and then it worked. And then I made another one, which is this little thing. How is it called in English?
Glover?
Okay, so this was my other attempt, and it's okay. It's a bit clumsy. And what I then did is a chain of...
Oh, this one is cute.
I saw a few historical garments because we were looking for projects or for people who made tattered lace, but not only the lace itself as a doily, for example, but who incorporated those into their clothing. And I saw quite a few people who had this small lace for cuffs, for example, or for your neckline. And it's really mostly invisible because it's so small and so it fits so well into the whole garment that it wasn't that contrasting, and I really liked it, and it's beautiful. I find this one also really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think I'm really going to continue this one to really have something for the neckline, for example.
I mean, it would even fit to this shirt.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, a little bit. And it's basically the easiest kind of tatting you can make, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a loop next
Yeah.
to another loop and a picot a little
And
bit.
yeah, small picots to make it.
To link them together.
To link them together, yeah.
Do you use a crochet hook to make the links, or do you use the point of the...
I use this point here.
Okay.
It's a bit disrupting the whole process, but I think with a little bit of like experience, you can get it right.
Yeah.
I also had a little problem to change the thread. It was right here at the beginning. It doesn't look very good, but I might have to look into it any further, because I also underestimated how fast the thread runs out.
Yeah, that's true.
I also thought, well, I mean, these kind of bobbins are also really difficult, or at least very tedious to
wind. Yes.
Wind. So I thought it would be fine in the beginning, but then I only have this small piece.
Yeah, winding and linking the yarn is quite tricky, I find.
So what I then wanted to try out is a real pattern, to work from a real pattern. And I used a pattern from the book, Priscilla Tatting book number 2, which is from, I think, 1910s also. I just printed out one page. And I think that to understand the instructions is not very difficult, but my lace, I chose this one here. My lace is a bit different to what it looks here. I'm not sure if it's... I'm going to show you. I basically just followed the instructions, but I'm not sure if it's a tension issue or if my picots are too small and therefore there's not enough space between the chains. I'm not really sure why. I mean, this is just the upper part of the lace, because then you would attach the same lace onto the lower part to have it mirrored. I mean, mine's a bit clumsy, but...
You're missing one picot.
Yes, this I did intentionally because it was too big.
Okay.
I wanted to have them smaller, but even then,
maybe
I think they're too round.
Yeah, maybe that makes already the difference that you have not enough material to make the oval instead of the round. And you can always block them into place. I did this too with my laces. I
had started this one time before, where I actually did all the picots that were asked for.
So it was the same issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's a blocking thing, I guess.
Blocking, okay.
But these are cute patterns.
Yeah. This book is also available for free online. I found it on, I think it was archive.org. I put the link down in the description. And yeah, I mean, there's a small explanation of every abbreviation there is, and then you work your pattern. I think it's quite simple, but...
Oh, that's cute. Modern tatting. The new or modern tatting differs in general style and appearance from that which we are all familiar. How did it look before? Oh, it's the chief charm of the old tatting lay in its fineness and in the feathery daintiness lent by the use of many picots. That of the new lies rather in its conventionality of design, its durability and its closeness of texture, which render it useful for many purposes for which the old was unfit. Now we know. Oh, that's so interesting. You learn something new. So I guess this one would count as modern. I think that's modern.
Did you follow a pattern?
Yep. It's also, I think, the Priscilla book of tatting. So one of these.
I think I remember seeing this one now that you say it. Yeah.
So let's jump to from the archive, I guess, because this is from the archive. It's a corset cover. The form is basically just closing it at the back and the front over a corset. And the yoke is made based on a pattern from the Priscilla book of yarns number, I don't know, I have to look it up.
I think it's number 2.
Number 2?
If it's the same as...
Okay. It's already that long ago, and I have seen so many books since then. The most interesting parts of this lace were they were called medallions at the front and 3 at the back. And for the rest, you just worked in the round. Basically, you had one round making the whole length, and then the next round adding the medallions at the front and the back. You could also thread in a ribbon for closing it or making some bows at the shoulders, but
Did
I
you do that?
thought, no, I found it that plain looked quite good, just like it is. But I'm not so happy with the choice of the fabric. I think it's quite coarse, right? Really,
It's more of a linen type fabric.
yeah, it's a linen.
Oh,
It's actually a linen.
yeah.
I thought for an undergarment it would be fine because undergarments were made of linen, and this lace isn't that fine either, but
I find it quite fine already.
yeah.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a beginner project, let's say it this way.
Yeah, okay.
How did you make sure that it would fit you? Did you modify the length of the neckline? Or how did you work this? Did you have any information on what thread to use?
It was called a thread of, I think it was a number 30 thread. And I happened to have number 30 threads from my grandmother, but it isn't sold anymore in this fineness.
Yeah.
It's either finer or thicker, but not that one. And I counted how many they are asking for and tried laying it around my shoulders to see if it fits. Because the first row was just a band, basically, which you could lay around the neck and see if it fits. If it would have been too big, then it would have dropped
from your shoulder.
Yeah. And that's why I approximately knew how big it should be.
Did you make the pattern for this undergarment afterwards or before? Did you fit the lace to your...
I had an idea of what I wanted to have, and I had to readjust the pattern because it didn't fit without darts. But the basic pattern is something I have seen on Pinterest and decided I will remake that. There was no pattern, it was just a sketch of an old magazine where somebody has tried to make it. I haven't found it back then either. I just knew that I had seen it somewhere and then tried to make it.
It reminds me a bit of these 50s blouses. So you have a lot of blouses where you tie the front piece together on the back and the other way around.
True. I think also this corset cover is from more like the 1920s to 30s than the actual 1910s. So it's a little later in time that I usually do, but for the sake of making a corset cover, it works quite well. Fine. Yeah.
Have you washed it already? I think yes.
I have washed it.
Did it work well?
It worked well. Pressing did work well too, but once you put it in a bag, it looks like that again. So linen is just not the best thing to transport, yes.
Should have worn it.
I should have worn it, yes, but today is quite cold. I have worn it actually in summer when it was really, really hot because it's a great summer top, basically.
Why not?
It's just really white, so you have to wear something beneath it. I think I will remake another yoke someday. And I also had the idea of making an umbrella. Because I have found a tatting pattern for an umbrella.
This could look really cool.
Yeah. But this is also a 2 years project, I guess. I took a couple of months to make this one. It was my first project and it's the first time tatting, but still it took quite some time.
But you did some samples before you started this?
Yes, I did some samples. This one was one of them.
Okay.
I've showed before. And I made...
It always gets tangled up.
It always gets tangled up, yes. Especially with the finer yarns. I had detangled it at home.
Can I help you?
So, this is, I think, the second tatted lace I made, but I have no idea what I want to do with it. So I left it like that, still with the shuttle on the end, so that it can continue if I want to. But for example, for collar, it's already too long. For here, it's also too long. So maybe one day I have an idea what to do with it. But after that, I started with something smaller or with finer thread, which is this one. You would crochet with 1 or 0.7 millimeter needle. It's really, really fine. And as you see, it's complete chaos if you tangle it.
I loved seeing this one when you showed it to me a few months ago. So beautiful. But I always, when I wanted to pick my stitches when I did something wrong, or my knots, it was quite difficult even with this big yarn. So how do you do it with this fine yarn?
You better don't.
Yeah.
But basically with a crochet hook
Yeah.
and pulling, and sometimes if I really don't know what I did, I cut it off
And then you
restart.
pick.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes I just leave the mistake in.
Yeah.
Here with the corset cover, there are some areas where I made, I forgot picot, or the loop is one not too small, and I just left it in. Because now I don't know where those mistakes were anymore. Absolutely no idea.
It's such a busy design also that it doesn't really...
You just can't see it. So I thought it's okay. Unless you need the picot to link two chains together, then it's an issue. But for the rest, it's usually not important. You won't see it.
I also read in this old book that I told you about that in the beginning you wouldn't use picots to link your chains together. You would sew them together afterwards.
Oh.
Which is like a lot of work, a lot of additional work.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's way easier then. And I did this one with the hopes of doing something with it, but I still have no idea what to do with it.
I mean, as an insertion lace of any type.
Yeah, that would be a possibility.
So beautiful. But one thing about tatting is that the lace looks a lot of times quite all over the place.
Yeah.
So sometimes when the tension isn't right, then some pieces stick out, some don't, some lay like in directions they shouldn't.
Yeah, blocking does a lot, but not everything. I think it's really
busy.
It's a really busy lace.
In general, yeah.
Yeah, there's happening a lot. I still find it really interesting to do, and it's really calming to do. You just have to count, nothing else.
Yeah.
You just have to think. You don't have to think about making pearls or knits or using a different technique. You just do the same thing over and over again.
It's just the 2 knots, and when you know these knots, then basically you could do everything. I mean, the tension, is quite difficult. Also to make the picots in the size you want, which is also a bit difficult at the beginning, but I also found it really meditative because at a certain point you just know, you just let your fingers flow.
Yeah. Maybe I should do it once again, just for relaxation purposes.
To just speak about the same thing as last episode, do you know how to make this one? Do you know the pattern still? Because last episode...
Don't call me out again.
Last episode we were talking about your crocheted lace, and you had one strip missing, and you didn't know how to complete it because you didn't write the pattern out.
Yeah. But this time I have the pattern because it's a
okay.
written down pattern. I think at least. I hope I have
to finish this one because it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I think I have saved it somewhere.
But I think it would be quite easy to reconstruct.
Yeah, once I'm back in how to do tatting, because I haven't done it in a year now. Oh no, 1.5 years now, because last year I finished this one. That was the last time I tatted.
Okay.
Last year around Christmas. So not last Christmas, Christmas before that. Oh, that's a long time now. But I did bobbin lace instead. I didn't do bobbin lace before, so
No one's calling you out on this one. It's okay.
changing technique.
Shame on you.
Oh, it's so strange how fast time passes if you do other stuff, basically. I think I will go back making some tatting lace, but I think I first have to know what to do. I have always this problem if I don't know what for,
Doesn't make any sense.
I don't do it, especially with lace, because lace is so time consuming to make that if you just do it for no purpose, it feels like wasted, to me at least.
I mean, you could try to find a way how to use your samples. I've always thought about when you have like crocheted or lace samples, crocheted lace or bobbin lace samples, that you could maybe hang them on the wall, maybe with a dark background or something, or with a light background, in a really artistic way, maybe to have like when you're sitting on your desk working and then you see your lace that you made, maybe it's a way to drape them artistically in a place that you see them, which is then not wasted.
I mean, I tried to do it in kind of a mood board next to my working place, but I basically hung there six strips of lace of the project I was doing back then, and since then I've never touched it again. I thought about it on kind of a mood board with project, the project I'm working right on the time, and then exchange them. But well, this is now hanging there,
catching dust.
Yeah, basically.
What you could also do is make a lace sample book. You also,
that's true.
I saw quite a lot of antique books with knitted lace samples, and maybe you could keep your journal and look through it to your journal.
Yeah, that would maybe enhance the chance that I write down what I'm doing. Maybe. That's true. Maybe I should do that. But not with the old projects starting from now, because if I try to do it from the old projects, I will feel overwhelmed, I guess.
Yeah. But it's nice to have something in your hands because we're both working digitally quite a lot of times. I'm keeping also all my patterns in a digital way. So it's maybe nice to have a physical thing in your hands.
Yeah.
Maybe to show others also, maybe to show other people in 50 years.
Yeah, that's true. A completely random question, but do you have a structure to save the patterns, for example, tatting and knitting and sewing, that you can find them? Because that's what I'm struggling right now. I have so many patterns, so many ideas, and I just tend to not find what I'm looking for, and right at the moment I'm looking for it.
So for my knitting, I'm the kind of person who prints most of their instructions. So if I'm working from like patterns from other designers, when I first started, I was printing them out, and most of the time I'm keeping it this way because I don't like looking at my phone, because I look at my phone so much already that I like to have a physical copy. Like when I'm knitting in front of the TV, it's nice to have like a piece of paper to look at rather than my phone. Yeah, so I have a folder with all my knitting patterns together. So for my bobbin lace patterns, I have this kind of thing. I'm not sure what it's called. Folder as well, where I keep all my patterns. So like I have all my loose patterns in here, and also all my like drawings from the patterns that I made myself. I also have all of my loose samples in here, so they don't get any stains or whatever. So it's like kept in one place. For my tatting patterns, I don't have a structure yet because this one was my first. Yeah, I think I'll put it into my bobbin lace folder here.
Yeah.
But yeah, online or digitally, I have a bit of chaos on my computer when it comes to these kind of things.
Okay.
So I do like, even though it's a bit senseless, I do like to have my things printed out sometimes, at least for sewing pattern, for knitting patterns.
Yeah, I think I should do that again because, for example, with the Fair sweater I'm knitting. There's such a big hurdle to open the program where I have the instructions and so, and on the phone it's just too small, so that I don't knit. Maybe having printed it is easier. For the tatting, I had just the digital version because quite soon I was used to the pattern. I didn't have to look it up anymore. I just knew how to count. There was
Also, the instructions are like, there are a lot of abbreviations and then like chain 7, so CH7, P1 for Picot. So I mean, it's like a small text.
yeah,
So
quite different
you wouldn't need to print that out. No.
yeah.
But I think keeping a journal is really the best way because then you have everything in place. You can, if you want to print it out, then you can cut it out and glue it onto your journal. Then you have everything together and you have something nice to look at.
That's true. How do you do this? How do you structure your projects? I really would love some input on that.
And also, do you come back to all the projects or do you just say, I finished this one, I don't want to see it again, I don't want to try it again, it's like boring now. So do you want to keep track of what you did or do you just work and go with the flow? I'd like to know that too.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So let's jump to our section on the bookshelf. I already showed you this book about tatting. It's a German book. It's called Schiffchen-Arbeiten or Frivolitäten, which would be the French word in somewhat of a German. I don't know. There was a time Germans always deformed the words from other languages to make them German, and Frivolitäten is one of those.
Well, I mean, I know this German word. It isn't such an exotic word.
No,
I'd say.
but
I don't use it, but I know it.
It definitely comes from the French word. So
I mean, the French language was at a certain time the modern language that everyone strived to speak. So
yeah,
it's normal, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. This book is mostly for looking at it and being really inspired. I haven't yet made something out of it because, yeah, basically I stopped tatting and made bobbin lace. But as I said, I have one project I want to come back to, and that is the apron. I already have the yarn for it. It's a black crochet yarn. I want to make it in black.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, but it's a project that will take some time once again. But if you are looking for inspiration and also rather intricate patterns, there are some few simple ones, but the most are already products to make, like the apron, like head caps and collars. Also the doilies, but the edging of doilies mostly. So this book is mostly with product in mind, which I find quite cool to see what they did back then with the technique.
When we're looking for people, like also for guests for this podcast, we didn't find a lot of people who were making products with their lace. So most of them were just, I mean, just is not the right word, but most of them were making like doilies, for example, or jewelry, but only few of them really used this lace to make garments. So historical garments or modern garments, there were just not many people. I found it quite a shame because it's a really beautiful lace and it's quite coarse also, I'd say. So you could wash it more easily than bobbin lace, I'd say, because it's less delicate. So why not use tatting lace to make garments with them?
I don't know, is tatting a technique that is commonplace? I don't think so, but maybe that's the thing about it, why people don't usually.
More people prefer to just make lace rather than sew also. Maybe that's a reason also.
Hey, that's a tatted lace sewn to a bobbin lace too. So basically you can mix any lace you want. Here too. The whole cap is made of bobbin lace and tatted lace. And needle lace. That's cool. Found another interesting project.
Morphing different techniques together.
Yeah. But you have also some books.
Yeah.
What do you have?
So one of my books that I have, I bought this a few months ago. I haven't looked into it that deeply into it, but I think it's a nice book to learn the techniques, at least when you already know how to do bow lace. So me also, I learned tatting from the videos of Bryce Adams, because written instructions of how to do tatting is, I think,
It's so strange.
yeah,
It just doesn't make sense.
yeah. But I like this one because you have these visual instructions of how to make this lace and like the result in the end. I'm not a fan of every type of lace, but some are quite interesting. I prefer these more intricate ones because these are just really wide.
Yeah, there's a lot of space between each.
I'm not a big fan of these, but yeah, maybe it's I got it for quite cheap, so maybe if you're interested in Filet lace, it's about Filet lace in general. So there are other lace techniques also in this book. So maybe it's a book for you. Also, my other book that I also talked about in one of the previous episodes is the Encyclopedia of Needlework. I think it's the English word. This is the German book. It's by Thérèse Dillmont.
The Bible of needlework.
Yeah. You can learn bobbin lace, needle lace, embroidery, every kind of
knitting.
Knitting too, yeah. Crocheting. There's a small section about tatting as well. Macrame is in it also.
Oh, this one's beautiful.
I think it's also shuttle tatting and crocheting combined. Like the middle strip here is made of crocheted lace, and then
the tatting is done on the outside. That's quite a cool idea. I haven't thought about it, like really making it in one lace. I always thought about sewing them together.
I'm not sure in this way if you made the crochet first and then you tat your lace onto this crocheted band, or if you do the crocheting afterwards.
That would be possibly written there somewhere. So I think this was tatted first and then crocheted around it.
But I mean, I think there's needle lace also at this point.
Yeah.
Because you have this bare piece of thread and then you would put needle lace around it, maybe?
Unless it's crocheted the edge onto it. That could be a simple row of crochet. It's fun. Maybe I should try that one day. Elongating the list of interesting stuff. So that's what we have for tatting on our bookshelves. So let's go on with our guest.
Her name is Leah. She's more into cosplaying, but has created a lot of beautiful costumes with tatted lace in them. And I'm just stunned by how much detail she puts in her costumes, and I like that the lace really fits into the whole garment and it gives a really cohesive look, and I'm really fascinated by the way she's creating her tatting lace. So if you want to know more about her, just continue watching. For us now, it's time to say goodbye, so see you in the next episode. Bye!
Bye!
Hi, my name is Miraziecosplay and I am from Denmark. I've been cosplaying for 16 years, give or take, and I first started to cosplay because I went to a convention and saw all these amazing people in costumes and thought I wanted to do that as well. This might seem like a very spontaneous kind of decision, just kind of jumping into it, but it actually worked really well with my personality. First of all, I always loved to go on stage. I loved performing, I loved all that stuff. And cosplay provided me with a stage. It's simple as that. I had the opportunity to perform, and even as characters I liked, so it fit. On the other hand, it also really worked out well because I have always been creative. I have always loved making things, but I always ran into kind of a wall where my parents couldn't decorate the bathroom anymore with kind of like pieces I had made. and my mother couldn't wear any more necklaces or wristbands and stuff like that. So everything creative I had done before kind of had a limit. But with cosplay, I could keep going, because then I could just make the next costume and another costume and be creative in a new way on a new project that I could always use, because I would wear it at a convention where, and this is my third reason for wanting to cosplay, where I could connect with people. I could talk with people having the same passion as me and just get new friends and new acquaintances, and everything actually really just worked out for me. So that is why I started to cosplay, and one of the main reasons I continue to cosplay, because I get to be creative the way I want to be, I get to perform, and I get to meet the most amazing people out there. As for tatting, how I started to tat, that is a whole different story. So first of all, I encountered tatting at home, like my entire childhood, because my mother had these. They are tatted and they are made by my great-great-grandmother, and they were everywhere in the house. Like, she used them to kind of have in between dishes. Not dishes, what are they called? Plates. Plates. When they were in storage, to just kind of protect them. And they were also kind of used like coasters for plants around the house. So they were everywhere, and I always thought they were really, really pretty. As I got older, I also got really curious about them. Like, how were they made? What was this? And I always knew it was something I wanted to learn and to do. But at the same time, you know, my childhood and the whole running into things, being creative in ways that didn't have a purpose, wasn't really sitting right with me. So just making and learning tatting for the sake of it wasn't really something I wanted to do. I wanted to have a reason to learn it, something I knew I could use it for. Enter Snow White. So 5 years ago, give or take, I was in a position where I wanted to do more embroidery. I wanted to do gold work. I wanted to do all these details that I had seen others do, and I wanted to do myself. So I looked for a costume where I could do this, and I found her. And it was also a costume where I figured tatting could actually be pretty cool, because on the collar she had the spikes, kind of lace-ish, but not really lace, where I thought tatting would be a really cute, really cool option to actually use here. And the same with the lace for her cape. So this project is what got it all started for me. This was my reason to actually learn tatting, while my great-great-grandmother was my inspiration to learn it. And that is where my tatting journey began. So here I was. I had a project I wanted to use tatting for, and I had tatting to get inspired by. But aside from that, I didn't really know how or where to start. So what I did was I went to my local library. I found a book on tatting, or orkis, like it's called in Denmark, and kind of took it from there. It was a really great book, and unfortunately I can't for the life of me remember the name of it. I think it was something like Tatting for Beginners, Orkis for Begynder, but I'm not really sure. It was one of the only books that I could find in the central library of Denmark, so I didn't really have much options at the point. It had some really cool drawings that told you both how to learn like needle tatting and shuttle tatting, which is two different ways of making the same thing, essentially. I started off by trying out needle tatting, which for me it seemed quicker, like it seemed faster to do. but it also, the end result for me, and remember, I was a beginner, so that was just my experience. It seemed faster, but it also seemed sloppier. Like I couldn't get everything as, I want to say tight, as I wanted it to. It seemed kind of uneven. Because the thing with the needle tatting is that you kind of make the knots on the needle, and then you have to pull the needle through, meaning that inside the knot there has to be space for the needle, which means that it's not as tight as when you make the knot on the thread. And I realized that this might not make not much sense for the people not knowing already what it's about, but I hope it makes some sense. Anyway, I tried out needle tatting, and I also actually started out using yarn to just, you know, have a bigger thread and get a hang of it. And this was some of the first things that I made. I mean, you can see that it's supposed to be tatting, but it's not in any way neat. But it worked, and I kept on practicing and doing stuff, and eventually ended up with something like this, which looks a lot neater. At some point though, like I said, needle tatting seemed not to work out perfectly for me, so I shifted out to shuttle tatting and started using the tatting shuttle that I had inherited from my great-great-grandmother. Yay! And practiced a lot. I didn't completely get the hang of it just by using the pictures in the book. I also had to go on Google and watch some YouTube videos to really get, you know, the feeling of what I needed to do to actually get this to work. But at some point I feel like I got the hang of it. If you see me tat, you will realize that I'm not doing it completely right. I'm not being as efficient as you could be, because when people use a shuttle, usually they can go like this is the movement of the shuttle. But when I move it, I do like this, like I spin it around. If that makes sense. So I feel like I can show people how to do it, but I'm not doing it the correct way. I'm just doing it in a way that I learned and that works out for me. But really, just get going. Just do what you can and do the best you can, and then that's fine. Anyway, this book also gave me some really, really nice and easy patterns to get started on. And yes, that was one of them. And this is in a thinner thread, still with needle tatting. And this is actually one I did recently, which is made with a shuttle and way nicer. And it's even in like a pastel rainbow color. So yay! But yeah, 3 steps with the same pattern. So that is how I learned tatting, and then I continued on to use it for Snow White. Really, I don't know what to say. Like, I learned it and I did it. I did it. It sounds super simple, and I guess it was, because the patterns I used for Snow White, they were, I want to say patterns I made myself, but they were really just like the basic things I had learned. So I just did it. The pattern for the cape is like the most basic things in tatting. Like, you have a loop, you have a bow, and then a loop again, and then you continue on the other side. Like, it's the most basic. But for the collar with the spikes, I took a pattern, or I saw a pattern in the book I mentioned that I learned from, and try to modify it to be something I wanted to use. And this is my first trial, and this is how they ended up looking. Here you go. This one is in yarn, and this is like the final product. So yeah, I made them myself and made sure to keep it simple, and made a lot of trials before I actually committed to a design that I liked. So yeah, really, if I can do it, anyone else can too. So just get to it and get learning. Aside from Snow White, I have also used tatting for my Howl costume from Howl's Moving Castle. It's actually a costume that I made many years ago, but I wanted to upgrade it and make it more sparkly and more, well, modern and my vibe today. So I decided to add tatting all the way around the golden parts here. Focus, yes. There you have it. And that goes all the way down the front of the jacket. This is so hard to actually keep in shape, but yeah. And then there is on the cuffs here, where if you notice the white parts is actually made from my great-great-grandmother's tatting. These ones. I got several broken ones that I kind of repurposed and put on here to just give them new life. And then I spiced it up with my own tatting here. And I feel like these parts are some of the things I'm most proud of with tatting, because it has a lot of history in it. And I love that it fills out the kind of like the blank space and makes it really interesting to look at. And I feel like that is one of the great things about tatting, that it can be both used to make, you know, borders and lace and stuff like that, but it can also just be really neutral and just interesting when you look up close. And for this costume, I actually also used it on the cuffs of the white shirt here. Just using, or actually showing, some different examples of where to use tatting in a costume. Just, you know, spicing some things up that might otherwise seem really bland. Overall, I feel like tatting is a technique that way more people should get into, because once you get the hang of the basics, it's super easy and it's really, really travel friendly. Like all you need is these two things. This is what you need to get in your bag, and then you can tat when you're on the train or in the bus or whatever. So it's really travel friendly. It can be used for a lot of different things, like I said, to fill out blank space or make lace, or, you know, even make shoes more interesting. Like this. And mind you, a lot of the things I have made are really, really basic. They essentially, a lot of it is just the basic, like, loop and bow or whatever they're called. And I repeat, if I can do it, you can do it too. It's all about getting over that first hurdle of learning the basics, and after that, it's actually really easy to get into. So I would say definitely just go for it. All you need is a thread and a shuttle, or a tatting needle if you prefer that. But I think the shuttle is very, very nice to work with. If you have any questions about tatting, or just in general want to see what I do, you can find me on both Instagram and TikTok under the name Miraziecosplay. So yeah, I definitely feel like tatting is something more people should do and learn. And if you make something, please send it to me. I really want to see it, and especially if you use it for a costume or in any such ways, because I feel like that is not being done enough. So cosplayers, crafters, let's get to it. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say for now. So bye.